Genesis, chapter, let me make sure I'm on the right page. Yeah, chapter 31, verse, we'll start at 41 there, and might back up just a little bit, but we kind of ended up around 41, 42 last week. So Genesis chapter 31, verse 41. So Jacob is starting to separate himself from Laban, right, over there. He's been over there. He's been over there for 20 years, working for Laban, basically. He went over there to find a wife, okay, and picked out Rachel. Had an agreement with her daddy that if you work for me for 7 years, I'll let you have her. Well, he worked 7 years and ended up getting Leah, the older sister. Okay. Now I got the oldest sister when I married my bride, but if it had been turned around a little bit, you'd have had one redneck upset boy. Okay. And so forth. And I'm sure Jacob wasn't real pleased with the way things had turned out, especially after working. I mean, you think about a young fella going out and working 7 years saving up for his car, and ended up they don't bring out the GTO, they bring out the 1965 model Volkswagen Beetle or something. You know, it's not what he wanted. But he and Laban started having some confrontation. We're gonna look into that a little bit tonight. But in verse 41 it says, "Thus have I been 20 years in thy house. I've served thee 14 years for thy 2 daughters, and 6 years for the cattle that I got." And so, if you notice, human nature goes along, and as long as things are going well, they're not. You know, I'm working for your daughters, and I work for your welfare of your cattle, and so forth. And human nature doesn't get specific about, I worked 7 years for that one, and I worked 7 years for that one, and I worked 6 years for the cattle. You know, and then they start putting time limits on things and specifics there. And Jacob threw that right back at Laban that way. I've been here 20 years working for you. I worked 14 years for your 2 daughters and 6 years for your cattle. Verse 42, "Except the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had been with me, surely thou hast sent me away now empty. God has seen my affliction and the labor of my hands, and rebuked thee yesternight." So, verse 42, Jacob's sitting there saying, unless God, okay, of his father. Now, who's Jacob's daddy? Isaac. Okay. Now, and who was Isaac's daddy? Abraham, right? Okay. So he's starting to understand the covenant, okay, between God and Abraham, and going down to Isaac, and that has been transferred down to him now. He's starting to understand there's something special with that. In verse 40, "Except the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had been with me." Okay? Now, that wording, fear of Isaac, we talked a little bit last week about it. Now, that could have been the fear of Isaac, because Isaac had, within his servants, he had trained soldiers, okay, there, and those trained soldiers could have wiped out Laban, okay. So it could have been that, or it could have been the fear of God, the God of Isaac, okay. It could be, Jacob could be talking about either the fear of the God of Isaac or the fear of Isaac's armies, okay. It's not real specific here in Genesis, but it could have been either one, okay. From my studies, I tend to lean on the fear of Isaac on the trained soldiers that could wipe you out. Okay, and the reason I say that is right before that it's talking about the God of Abraham, okay, there. So he's bringing God into it through Abraham, and then he's going to bring the soldiers in through Isaac, and say, look, either God or the armies can wipe you out, okay, type thing. So I tend to side with the idea that Jacob is talking about when he says the fear of Isaac. I think it's a physical thing, talking about the armies Isaac had, the trained soldiers within his servants, okay, because he's invoking God. This thing of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, okay, hadn't been developed yet. And Jacob, okay, is sitting there, the God of Abraham, the armies of Isaac, okay, could whoop you, okay. And the reason I'm saying that is because the idea of the God of Abraham and Isaac, okay, really hadn't been developed yet, okay, as powerful as it will be. And he's realized now, Jacob's upset with Laban. Things aren't going real well. So Jacob's not real happy with Laban. So he's kind of threatening. God's going to whoop you, or my daddy's army's going to come in here and whoop you. So he's angry, okay? Now, so he's threatening a little bit. And said, middle of verse 42, surely thou hast sent me away now empty, if it wasn't for those God or the fear of Isaac. And it says, picked up, God has seen my affliction and labor of my hands, and rebuked thee yesternight. Now when he says yesternight, he's talking about that dream that Laban had, that God came and talked to him and said, listen, you don't have a whole lot of conversation with Jacob. You don't mix it up with him too much. Okay? So Jacob knew God had talked to Laban in that dream. And he says he rebuked him. So verse 43. So after the threats there's a covenant that's going to be established, okay? Verse 43, and Laban answered and said unto Jacob, these daughters are my daughters, and these children are my children, and these cattle are my cattle, and all that thou seest is mine. And what can I do this day unto thee, my daughters, or unto their children, which have been born? Look at what Laban's doing. He says, listen now, these daughters are my daughters, and those babies are my grandchildren, okay? And these cattle are even my cattle. Were the wives of Jacob his daughters? Absolutely. Were those children his grandbabies? Yes. Were the cattle still Laban's? Jacob had worked, right? Remember all the spotted and striped sheep and all the goats that had white on them and stuff and mixed up, and they weren't brown or black, that Jacob had worked 6 years for, okay? Laban was still claiming those things, okay? That controlling spirit that Laban had, and you can't say that Laban didn't have a control spirit. He worked that boy for 20 years, okay? He controlled him, almost trapped him, okay? He had a control spirit. Now, this isn't something you're going to find in Genesis, but Laban controlled him. Okay. Now this is preacher talking. This isn't something I'm going to bring you into Genesis and teach you. Okay. I believe there is a thing called a control spirit. Okay. And part of how I call it a control spirit is what we've just studied about Laban. He's controlling Jacob. Okay. A control spirit never relinquishes control over anything it's influenced. Okay? And Laban, Jacob was living in his town, on his land, had his daughters, okay? They were grandbabies now, and these cattle came from who? Laban. Laban's cattle, remember? You know, the sheep were all white, and he said, look, Jacob, you can have all of them if they've got spots or stripes on them, okay? The sheep and the goats. And then everything that was born had spots or stripes on them, okay? Because God was blessing Jacob. Laban was still claiming those animals, still trying to control them. still sitting there, they're my daughters, I have some say on it, and so forth. That control spirit. And through some studies and experience, dealing with people in some churches that have split and destroyed churches, where Valerie and I have worked for 17, 18 years, whatever a control spirit can't control will seek to destroy. Okay? If it can't control it, it wants to destroy it. Okay? Now, maybe you see some illustrations of people in some churches that you go, wow, I've seen that. You know, they try to run things, control things, and the minute they can't control it, they try to wipe it out. They destroy people. They destroy everything around them. Okay? I've seen people take stuff out and throw it in the garbage and burn it before somebody else gets use of it once it starts slipping out of their control. A church in Forest Park, a family gave a stove to the church, into the social hall. Okay? And Valerie and I, we were having a pizza bake cook for the youth, and so forth. And we had pizza dough and sauce and all this stuff going on and everything. Kids were cooking pizzas and everything. And the lady of this family came in and said, "What are you doing?" And well, we're having a pizza cook, you know, for the young people. We're having pizza tonight, homemade pizza. And she said, "Nobody asked me about that." I really didn't understand what she was talking about because I didn't know I was supposed to ask her if we could use the social hall. And she said, no, I'm talking about the stove. And I go, well, we're just baking pizza. And she said, well, I gave that stove to the church. Okay? And I said, okay. And she said, y'all aren't allowed to use it. Well, we are in the middle of baking pizza. I don't know how we're supposed to stop that, okay? But she came in, you're not allowed to use it. Well, we had talked to the pastor. They knew about it. We're just working in the church at that point. I didn't see the connection in it. I hadn't been confronted with this stuff too much. We're still kind of early in our rebuilding church mode and so forth. And this woman expected us to empty everything out, leave the social hall, and make sure that stove was cleaned. Okay? And I said, well, we're not going to leave. We're in the middle of a fellowship. Okay? Didn't know this rule existed. And she said, no, you're not allowed to use it. I said, we're not leaving. Okay? We're going to continue with this, but we'll clean the stove up, the social hall, and everything else, which we did. Okay? Well, this thing festered enough where she came back and she said, I donated that and you didn't ask permission to use it. And I said, did you donate that to the church? And she said, yes. I said, then it doesn't belong to you anymore.
That's right.
Okay? You gave it. It doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the church. And that's what we're using it for. She threatened to haul that thing out of the church rather than anybody use it. No more fellowships, warming up food, none of this, youth warming, and so forth. And some men of the church, I had to talk to her and her husband, and the pastor had to talk to them and let them know that was property of the church then, and there would be legal complications if they removed it. Okay? But that's that control spirit. What it can't control, it will seek to destroy. Okay? And I'm not advocating that we go out and mess up stoves with pizza sauce and everything. Of course not. You clean it up if it drips, okay? And so forth, just like you would in your home. You clean it up. You don't mess things up, leave it lay, and so forth. But that control spirit would come in and rather see that thing hauled out with an empty spot in the counter than somebody get benefit outside their control. And it started with we didn't ask permission from her because they had donated it, okay, and so forth. Laban is doing the same thing, okay, and y'all might have seen through your lives in church some of this other happened there. This same spirit that was on Laban is still alive today, okay, it still works. And you watch somebody that wants to control things, if if it starts slipping out from under their thumb, oh, they will destroy the people or anything around it, okay? They get angry and destroy the use of it, destroy the person, the reputation, and all these other things. But Laban here was sitting there in verse 43, and Laban answered and said unto him, these daughters are my daughters, and these children are my children, and these cattle are my cattle, and all that thou seest is mine. What can I do this day unto thee? My daughters are unto their children which have been born. Okay? Now, keep in mind, Jacob's just threatened him because of God and Isaac over here. Okay? And then that old control spirit comes up. But look at what starts happening with Laban in verse 44. And therefore thou come, make us a covenant, I and thou, and let it be for a witness between me and thee. Now, to understand that verse, now therefore come thou, let us make a covenant. Now covenant is a promise, right? That's supposed to be unbreakable. All right? And then he continues, look at the tradition. I and thou. So he identifies who he wants the covenant to be, and let it be for a witness between me and thee. Remember our study on the covenants up to now, that it was a public thing, that it was announced in front of a group of people, so that he wants it to be witnessed. Okay? Why does Laban want this covenant to be witnessed? Because either God or Isaac's going to come in and kill him, wipe his people out. That's why this has gotten serious. Okay? So he was looking for protection. So he wanted to be public. He wanted a witness, okay, of a covenant that was between he and Jacob. Verse 45. And Jacob took a stone and set it up for a pillar. And Jacob said unto his brother, gather stones. And they took stones and made a heap. And they did eat there upon the heap. You remember our study of the covenant, that there was a witness, a group of people that it was announced between. So this was a public thing, so that neither side should get out of it. And then there was a feast. Okay, so we're having the feast again. Okay, so we're having a public thing. That covenant was made publicly. And then there was a big feast around it again. And it was around these, we call them altars, okay, if you want to. Because that in essence is what they are. They took these stones, but he made a pillar, and then he made a heap of stones. Verse 47. And Laban called it Jegar-Shadutha, but Jacob called it Gilead. Okay, and Gilead. Now we're dealing with two different languages here. Jegar-Shadutha and Gilead means a heap of witnesses. Okay? Now, they're talking both of the stones that were heaped up and the group of people that were gathered together witnessing the covenant. Okay? That was made. So that's the place that they named. Verse 48. And Laban said, this heap is a witness between me and thee this day. Therefore was the name of it called Gilead, which means a heap of witnesses. And Mizpah, for he said, the Lord watch between me and thee when we are absent from one another. In other words, that word Mizpah, that name Mizpah that they have, is a word that describes a beacon or watchtower or a place of separation. So it's an area, it's a tower, but a place of separation. So Laban's fixing to separate from Jacob, okay? And it's that covenant was, and we're going to read this in just a few more verses, is so that the covenant is, Jacob's not going to go over there and attack Laban, and Laban is not going to come over here and attack Jacob. Okay, but they're going to separate. So Mizpah is a place of separation where God's going to watch over that no one can come across that and attack the other. Okay, so let's read that on a little bit more. Verse 49. In Mizpah, for he said, the Lord watch between me and thee when we are absent from one another. So look, we're going to separate. We're going to be absent from one another, and the Lord's going to watch over both sides. Verse 50, if thou shalt afflict my daughters, or if thou shalt take other wives beside my daughters, no man is with us. See, God is witness betwixt me and thee. So part of the covenant is Jacob can't marry any other women. Okay, so Laban's putting some limits on that. And there's some controls. Now it started out, Laban's trying to protect himself so that Isaac, or God, doesn't come in and kill him. But as the covenant progresses, look at what Laban's starting to do. He's putting control back in there over Jacob again. See? Says you can't marry anybody else. You've already married two of my daughters. You can't marry anymore. Okay? And so verse 51, and Laban said to Jacob, behold this heap, and behold this pillar, which I have cast betwixt me and thee. Okay? This heap be witness, and this pillar be witness. Okay? So you understand there's a heap of stones, and there's a stone set up like a pillar. Okay? So there's two markers here. It's not the same thing. There's a heap, and there's a pillar. Verse 52, this heap be witness, and this pillar be witness, that I will not pass over this heap to thee, and thou shalt not pass over this heap and this pillar unto me for harm. Okay? So we're concluding the covenant there. Verse 53, and God of Abraham and the God of Nahor. Wow, okay. Who's Nahor? Abraham's brother, right? Okay. So say Nahor. Nahor is Abraham's brother. So the God of Abraham and the God of Nahor, the God of their father, judge betwixt us, and Jacob sware by the fear of his father Isaac. Okay, you remember I told you the terminology and the identifying God of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob was being defined at this time. Okay, and Jacob brought up not the God of Abraham and Isaac now, but the God of Abraham and Nahor. Okay, the brothers. Okay, is identifying God. Okay, and I'll talk to you just a second about some controversy today on identifying God. But the God of Abraham and Nahor, talking about those two brothers, and one thing we know is that evidently Nahor was also following this same God that Abraham was. Okay? So we're starting to see some relationship here developing, that more than just Abraham was following God, but also his brother, which means all his house.
Brother
Okay?
Steve, this translation has the God of Abraham, and it puts God with the capital letter. Then it says, and the gods of Nahor, and it's not capitalized, like it's different. Like
Okay.
Abraham worships the true God.
What version do you?
This is the Holman.
Holman? Okay.
Standard. What it looks like to me in this translation is it's saying that Abraham worshipped the true God. It's capitalized. And then Nahor worshipped other gods. It's capital. What does yours say? Now Linda's is different. Hers has the God is capitalized in both things. So this translation I've got may be wrong then.
Okay. I've got some notes here that Abraham and Nahor were the sons of Terah. Terah started with Abraham to the land of promise. Okay? So Terah, Abraham's daddy, started out toward the land of promise. Now later on, God talked to Abraham and separated him out a little bit there. But Terah started with Abraham to the land of promise, and that's in chapter 11, verse 31. Okay? So we know that Terah, the daddy, Abraham, and Nahor were all heading the same direction at one point. And that's chapter 11, verse 31. So they're together. Why would they be all traveling to the land of promise if it was under a separate God? They're all being led by one God, right? And that in what the Holman is telling you, that'd be the capital G. Okay? There. This proves further that Terah was converted to Abraham's God. Abraham's daddy apparently was converted to God because he was being led by God to the promised land at one point. Same God, right?
Terah.
He was converted. He was converted because they started traveling toward
Okay.
the promised land, and who were they being led by?
Yeah, but Terah wasn't, he wasn't called to go. Only Abraham was called to go.
They were separated because right after they started traveling, God said, separate yourself from your kindred and your people, okay, and go to the land that I'm going to show you. Okay, back in chapter 11, verse 31. But they started out all heading over there.
Yeah, but they
Then
stopped.
God separated them out.
Okay, they stopped, but they didn't move again until Terah died.
That's right.
And so I'm not saying he did, but in my mind, Terah was,
So you're thinking Terah continued to worship the moon god.
yeah, well, that was just my
Okay.
opinion, you know. And
All right.
when God stopped Abraham, didn't let him go anymore because Terah died, then Abraham moved on.
Okay. So you don't think Terah converted because he was starting and heading and traveling together?
Mine, I have got no problem
Okay.
with that, you know,
Okay.
I'm thinking,
All right.
you know.
Well, I can't disprove you right now with that, okay? So, good discussion there, all right? Now, the God of Abraham, and we know the God of, well, the King James Version, the Holman is doing something. What Gene brought out is identifying something a little bit different than the King James's reading, because it says the God of Abraham and the God, and this is capitalized in King James, the God of Nahor, the God of their father. Okay, so who was their father?
What's his name?
The God of Abraham and God of Nahor. The God who's Abraham and Nahor's father.
Terah?
Terah.
Okay, so let's read 53 again. The God of Abraham, the God of Nahor, and the God of their father. You see what I'm saying, Carlton? Somewhere he got converted then. Okay?
Very right.
All right? But back in chapter 11, verse 31 over there, they were all moving toward the promised land. Okay? I know he was a moon worshiper. He worshiped pagan gods, okay? But somewhere there was a conversion in there. It's not documented in there that Tahor accepted the God of Abraham or something. But here it identifies that the God of Abraham, the God of Nahor, and the God of their father, okay? And it's all capital G in the King James. And it indicates this is the same God. Abraham, Nahor, and Terah all followed this one God.
Well, you
Okay.
know, when it's talking about them going over there and getting them wives, it talks about how, you know, Isaac and all them believe in God, but then it don't, Laban and them, it don't
Laban and Doug.
indicate that they were very religious.
Exactly. Now, so the God of Abraham, the God of Nahor, and the God of their father judge betwixt us, and Jacob swear by the fear of his father Isaac. There's that terminology. And because Jacob is sitting there talking about the God of Abraham and Nahor and the God of their father is going to watch over this, and then somehow he sits down in the fear of his father Isaac. That's again why I think he's saying my daddy's army is going to come after you if we break this thing. Okay, so we still haven't really clearly identified the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob to identify Yahweh. Okay, we're still developing that. Okay, there. Now, what Ginger was saying there is talking about the God of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. Where was Laban's gods? They were in the cattle. They were in the camel couch of Rachel. You remember she stole the gods, the idols, and stole them. Okay, so this Laban didn't have any gods. They got stolen. Okay, but if you're worshiping the one true God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God the Father, there. Nobody can steal that from you. But if you got idols and false gods all around you, people pick them up, tote them away. Okay? So there's another proof that those things aren't really gods. If somebody can steal that God, it must not be a God. okay? You can't steal God, okay? So when you come up on people that are worshiping different things, you know, can somebody steal that? Can somebody steal Buddha? You know, there. You know, you can't steal God there. So that's just interesting. I won't charge you all for that. Verse 54. And Jacob offered sacrifice upon the mount and called his brethren to eat bread. And they did eat bread and tarried all night in the mount. And early in the morning Laban rose up and kissed his sons and his daughters and blessed them. And Laban departed and returned unto his place. Okay, so he went home. Said goodbye to his daughters. And he went home. Now, chapter 32. And Jacob went on his way, and the angels of God met him. Okay? And when Jacob saw them, he said, this is God's host, and he called the name of that place Mahanaim. Okay? Verse 1, and Jacob went on his way, and the angels of God met him. There's people today that don't believe in angels. Okay? They don't believe that they interact with us in any way. Now, even New Testament, be careful when you're entertaining strangers. Take care of strangers, because you might be dealing with angels and just don't know it. Okay? So angels apparently look similar to us, similar enough to where we don't realize they're angels. Okay? Now, I believe also that some of the angels are big and mighty and dress in white garment because they're described that way. Okay? But obviously, angels are a bit, either have the ability to look like you and me, or God created them that way. Okay? And we can't tell any difference. Okay? Whichever, I'm not sure. Okay? Probably there's big mighty angels that just scare the stuffings out of you when they appear. They're glowing and in white garment and powerful. The Bible talks about them being able to wipe out just thousands and thousands of men at a time. In fact, I was listening to someone teach this week about it, and they had the numbers. And I'm sorry I don't have the numbers because I was just listening to it. But they were talking about if an angel can destroy 10,000 people, and there's they had it figured out how many the angels could wipe out more than 100 times the entire population of the world today. Wow. You know, they had it worked on 1,000 times more than the world population. That's powerful. Okay? But the angels came down and met him. Okay? There's an indication of how much God cares for us. And Genesis is God's plan of redemption for man. And, you know, you gotta, if you keep that in focus and you read something like that. But the angels of God met him as Jacob went on his way. God doesn't change. And it's still possible today that God can send down angels that you realize are angels to go with you, to meet with you, to be with you. If God could do it back then, God doesn't change, right? Same yesterday, today, and forever. Okay, then God can still do that. It's still possible. As far as I know, I've not seen any angels. Okay, if I was a gambling individual, I would probably bet you that I've probably interacted with some because of some phenomenal things that have happened and so forth. I just didn't know they were angels. Okay, and so forth. But the point I'm trying to make is that God still is interested. If he was interested in people then to send angels to walk with them and meet with them, God's still interested today to send angels and to meet with you when necessary, and when God has a purpose for things. When you have a need and when God has a purpose, you know. There's a sermon in there somewhere. But that still happens. Verse 2, and when Jacob saw them, he said, this is God's host. Okay? And he called the name of that place Mahanaim. Okay, verse 3. And Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau, his brother. We hadn't heard about Esau in a little while. Unto the land of Seir, the country of Edom. What does Edom mean? Red. Red, okay? And where did the name Edom come from? Do you remember?
Red,
It means red.
Esau, country, Esau.
That's where Esau went and abode, okay, and so the land was called Edom, okay, because Esau was red, and Edom means red, okay, and so the name of Edom came from Esau settling in that land, okay, and it was called red because Esau was red, okay, he had red hairs and stuff. Verse 4, and he commanded them, saying, Thus shall ye speak unto the Lord Esau, thy servant Jacob said thus, I have sojourned with Laban and stayed there until now. In other words, speaking to my Lord Esau, okay, and Lord is lower L. Thy servant Jacob said thus, I've sojourned with Laban. In other words, Jacob said, look, I've hung out with Laban all this time, okay, and I've stayed with him all the way up until this time, until now, okay. So what Jacob is explaining, this is where I've been. You know, remember, there wasn't telegraphs and internet and mail and that kind of stuff back then. Gosh, Jacob had headed out to find a wife so that he wouldn't marry a Canaanite, right? Okay, and so for 20 years he's gone, and all of a sudden he shows up, and so he's letting Esau know, listen, I've been with Laban in his land. I've stayed with him all this time up until now. So he's given an account for where he's been, okay, all this time. Verse 5, and I have oxen and asses, flocks and men servants and women servants, and I have sent to tell my Lord that I may find grace in thy sight. And the wording, and I have sent to tell my Lord, lowercase l, that I may find grace in thy sight. So what's the Lord that Jacob is talking about? Who is that? Esau. You remember when Jacob was heading out to find his wife and everything, and what he swore a vow to, that if the Lord will sit down and keep me and feed me and give me clothing and bring me back to my father's house in peace, okay, that this God, the God of Abraham, okay, and the God of my father will be my God, okay? Remember that vow he made? So as he's coming home, what is he doing? He's following up and putting the period on that, on the completion of that vow. He's saying, you go, angels, you go to Esau in the land of Edom and explain to him that I have been staying with Laban and I've stayed in his land all this time, all the way up till now, okay? In verse 5, and I have sent to tell my Lord Esau that I may find grace in his sight. So he's asking Esau, listen, I want everything okay. I want to come back in peace. I want to have grace in your sight. Well, this 20 years while Jacob's been gone, Esau's there, and he's accumulated more wealth and grown, right? Okay? He probably has an army too. I mean, Isaac's got one. Esau's probably got one too. He's got his own manservants, and he's got his sheep, and he's got his cattle, and he's got his oxen, and he's got his manservants and his maidservants, and all this, because that's what was going on. And now Jacob's coming back. See? And so that vow he vowed, he's sitting there and sending word. Calling Esau Lord, lowercase l, that I may find grace in your sight. Okay? I want to come back in peace. See? You see, I can imagine the numbers of people coming across the land, heading over toward it where Esau was. They went on guard. Those soldiers that were trained and so forth, they were called to duty, okay? Because people were being attacked all the time and wiped out and put into slavery and all that type stuff. So as Jacob was approaching, he wanted to send word, okay, you go tell him, okay, you go tell him that it's me, and I've been over there with Laban all this time, and I've stayed with him, now I'm coming home, and I want to have grace in your sight, okay? So he was diffusing what could have been a horrible war. And the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, we came to thy brother Esau, and also he cometh to meet thee, and 400 men with him. So Esau got word, okay, and word came back, he's coming to meet you. Now why was he bringing 400 men?
Well, it could have been escort, but I remember the 400 he brought with him. He still got army back at home protecting the wives and kids and the livestock. So he is a powerful man now.
Yeah, he had a big army back there where he was living, protecting his people and his family and everything. But he came out with that 400. Why? Because people lied. I'm coming in peace, and the army come over and overtake them and so forth. People lied. And Esau was being cautious in approaching Jacob or whoever it was that was coming in, okay? He was being cautious. And those 400 men were probably just personal protection, okay, while he went out to meet what he was told was his brother. Now look, verse 7. Then Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed, and he divided the people that was with him, and the flocks and the herds and the camels into 2 bands, and said, if Esau come to the one company and smite it, then the other company which is left shall escape. So he was, you see how both these brothers are reacting now? Okay? So Esau said, oh, that's my brother, I'm bringing 400 men to protect me, and so forth, and I guarantee you everything was at guard and on high alert back when he left them. And as he comes up, and Jacob got word that he's coming out with 400 men, he divided all his people into 2 groups, okay, to better the chances of their survival, okay? And he said, if Esau comes out and kills off one group, then the other group might be able to escape. And Jacob said, verse 9, O God of my father Abraham, and the God of my father Isaac, the Lord which stand unto me, return unto thy country and to thy kindred, and I will deal well with thee. I am not worthy of the least of all the mercies and of all the truth which thou hast showed unto thy servant. For with my staff I passed over the Jordan, and now I am become 2 bands. Okay? We'll stop right there and go back to verse 9. Okay? And Jacob said, O God of my father Abraham, and the God of my father Isaac. Okay? What's the difference there? When he's talking to God, verses over there in verse 53 of chapter 31. The God of Abraham, the God of Nahor, and the God of their father judge betwixt us, and Jacob sware by the fear of his father Isaac. And now we read a little different. And Jacob said, O God of my father Abraham, and the God of my father Isaac. Now it's the God of Isaac too. Okay, it's not fearing Isaac. Now it's the God of Isaac. Okay? The Lord which stands saith unto me, return unto thy country and to thy kindred. What's he talking about? You remember where the Lord came to Jacob and said, go back home? Okay, return. So Jacob is sitting here saying, listen now, Lord, you're Abraham's God, you're Isaac's God, and you're the one who talked to me, and you said, go home. And now I'm divided into 2 groups of people, with this man coming with 400 to come out and meet me. Okay?
Well, he's talking to God, and God didn't fear Isaac.
Yeah, God didn't fear Isaac. And I am not, verse 10, and I'm not worthy of the least of all the mercies and of all the truth which thou hast showed unto thy servant. For with my staff I passed over the Jordan, and now I am become 2 bands. Verse 11, deliver me, I pray thee, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, and for I fear him, lest he will come and smite me, and the mother of the children. And thou sayest, I will surely do thee good, and make thy seed as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered for multitude. Okay? Jacob is sitting there saying, Lord, now you told me what you were gonna do. And that you were gonna multiply me and all my offspring can't be numbered. And you told me to come back to my land. So he's going back through his head in his prayers as he's praying to God and saying, Lord, now you said this, and you promised this, Lord. And I'm not worthy of any of the mercies, okay, that you're going to show me, and so forth. But because you said these things, and you gave me these promises, I'm going back home. Even, listen now, fear of death, Esau's actually coming out with 400 people, okay, and he doesn't know, is he coming after me, or is he just protecting himself, or why is these 400 men coming with him, okay? That would be highly concerning, you know. When he sent word and said, look, go tell Esau I'm coming home and I want grace in your eyes and so forth and all that thing. He wasn't anticipating Esau coming out to meet him with 400 people. Okay? He got word back. That's what's happening. I'd be concerned too. So Jacob is sitting there kind of recounting what, listen now, Lord, I went over there to get a wife and I made a vow that if you feed me, take care of me, and bring me back in peace and so forth, you'll be my God. So, Lord, you're the God of my father. You're the God of Abraham. You're the God of Isaac and so forth. And you told me to come home. And I'm coming home. Now, deliver me from my brother Esau. He didn't want this fight. He didn't want that thing. Verse 11. And he lodged there the same night, and took that which came to his hand, a present for Esau his brother. So he got together a present. 200 she-goats and 20 he-goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 milch camels with their colts, so their babies, 40 kine and 10 bulls, 20 she-asses and 10 foals. And he delivered them into the hand of his servants, every drove by themselves, and said unto his servants, pass over before me, go out in front of me, and put a space between drove and drove. So separate all these things out. Why was he doing that? He's making the gift look even larger. You know, put some space between them. Spread it out as you go over there. I want them to see what's coming. So one, if you go in a line and you go behind each other, see, Esau wouldn't be able to tell, is that animals or that men coming in on me? And he said, you put some space out there, so you spread them out, okay, for two reasons. One, it increases the vision of the gift, okay, by doing that, and it allows Esau to identify there's no soldiers coming, okay? So the wisdom that was here. And he commanded the foremost, saying, when Esau my brother meeteth thee, and asketh thee, whose art thou, and whither thou goest, and whose are these before thee? Okay, so what are you doing? Verse 18, and thou shalt say, they be thy servant Jacob's. It is a present sent unto my lord Esau, and behold, also he is behind us. So in other words, Esau, what are you doing? What's all this? Okay, and so forth. And the servant said, this is for you. This is a present from Jacob. And he's behind us, and he's coming. Okay? There. Verse 19. And so commanded he the second and the third, and all that followed the droves. Remember? They're separated, saying, on this manner shall ye speak unto Esau when you find him. So he gave the same message to every group that was coming. Go on. Yes,
I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything.
no, you didn't say anything. But so Jacob gave each of the leaders of these droves the same message, okay, and so forth. One, that it would be repeated. Two, if these men got killed, he still wanted the message to come through. Okay? So you can just imagine how tense this situation was. Okay? And what we can get out of this is we get into tense situations, even with God's promises in our lives. We get in those things. God promised certain things. God said go. God said go back home. Okay? And Jacob was following what God had said. And God, listen, Jacob became a wealthy man from Laban okay, just because of God's blessing, okay? And it was obvious. I mean, these sheep were getting spots and stripes on them when they shouldn't have got them. And Laban's flocks wasn't increasing and all these things that last 6 years. So Jacob knew God was blessing him. But then, even with all that stress, danger, worry was coming into his life. Now, Jacob kept going on because God told him to. Even with all this, the worry about, I'm going to get wiped out. Okay? He still did that. He still had the fight. He still had the stress, the worry and stuff. And he did it. About all you can do to try to eliminate it. Go tell him I want grace. Okay? Servants, you go get these camels and you go get these sheep and you go get these goats and you separate these things out. And so he designated different servants for each of them and separate them and go in by droves. Okay? So that he can see what's coming at him. Okay? And then he gave this group over here a message, and this one the same message. You go say, listen, this is from you. This is from your brother Jacob. It's a gift to you. Okay? And Jacob's behind us. He's coming. And every one of these groups had that same message coming in to Esau. Okay? And so forth. Even with all the promises, even knowing God's with them, even the danger that was perceived. Okay, and the tension from both brothers and all of this stuff, okay, so you can walk right in the middle of the will of God and have tremendous stress, okay, and so forth. But if you're doing what God says, up here, you can be sitting there, I'm fixing to get killed. He's going to wipe me out. I'm going to be damaged beyond belief, okay, but as long as you continue, and we'll get into this next week, you'll see the blessing that's coming. Jacob couldn't see the blessing. All he could see was the danger. But he still followed God at that point. With all the danger and everything else, he still followed God. Okay? But he didn't just take faith in God and just go walking into the land. He also used wisdom in trying to eliminate the danger. Okay? Go tell him I'm coming. Here, we're going to give him presents. We're going to separate them out. I'm going to take the servants. I'm going to give them the same message. I'm not trying to destroy you, Esau. I'm going to bless you. These are yours. There's a gift. Okay? And so forth. Which tells us, even if we're doing exactly what God wants, we can be put through a lot of stress. We can be put into danger. But we're expected to use our head, use wisdom, try to eliminate those situations and still proceed through. Okay? Even though that had to be horrendous danger and stress at that time. One servant being disobedient could have created a war. Okay? And so Jacob used great wisdom in how he approached this thing. Esau was using strong caution. See, God wasn't talking to Esau. Okay, telling him what was going on. He was completely in the dark. Jacob knew what was going on, but look at the danger he was facing. See? So it should teach us how we should handle stress, relationships. Okay? Even if this is what God wants me to do, we got to still use wisdom in how we're dealing with people. Okay? While we're proceeding with what God told us to do. Okay? Still, we have to use our head. We still have to ask God to give us wisdom in how we deal with these things. It's not going to remove us out. And everybody knows once you become a Christian, everything doesn't become a bed of roses. Okay? And they're in the center of God's will. Jacob's doing exactly what he's supposed to do. But look at the danger. I mean, real danger he was in. But watch and study how he reacts to it. We'll pick up there next week. Thank y'all for being here. Is there any questions, comments? Goodness, y'all smart people.